our recitation by the 29th night, and then hopefully inshallah, and hopefully NYU will be joining us for our khatam, and then they will do their khatam the next night on the 30th, so inshallah we'll be joining them for their khatam. Inshallah. Also, if you didn't notice that we went over, good morning. We went over. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. So we're on the 25th night of Ramadan. We just recited the 25th juz of the Quran plus a little extra. The 25th juz it begins with the last page of Surah Fussilat, and there's 7 surahs in the Quran that begin with Hamim, and it was like the series of surahs that were all connected to each other, and they all start with the Prophet ﷺ named them the Hawamim, and they were all, I believe they're all Meccan surahs. So yesterday we recited Surah Ghafir, which is also called Surah Mu'min, the surah of the believer, and this believer that is mentioned in Surah Ghafir, or Surah Mu'min, is actually referenced in Surah Al-Ahqaf that we just finished, which is the last of the 7 surahs that begin with Hamim. So we had Ghafir yesterday, we began Fussilat, we are at the end of Surah Fussilat, and then the rest of the chapter, all of the surahs that we recited began with Hamim. And this was a way that, subhanAllah, to show that all of these surahs are connected. Surah Fussilat, I remember my teacher actually talking about it, and he said if there isn't a greater surah in terms of just doing da'wah than Surah Fussilat, because you know how you explain something in a way that is so clear-cut that there are no two ways about it, that it just becomes crystal clear. And that's one of the meanings of the surah of Fussilat, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the surah makes things so evidently clear for us that you can't turn away from it, subhanAllah. The page that we recited today, some of it talks about some of the human realities of people someone would suddenly become, people would always demand things that are good, and as soon as they get something that's bad, they're like, oh, what happened? And they forget to attribute all of the good that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has been giving them and just fixate on the one thing that's wrong. May Allah protect us from that. Or if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them something that's good, then they're just like, oh, it was me all along. No, it's not you all along. They were all gifts from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then, or in Ayah 51, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, what if we gave the person, and then he takes, essentially someone just takes that takes their stuff and just hoards it to themselves. And when they are given a test of something that is difficult, they have this really, really, really long dua and haven't been praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the entire time. And this isn't to say that when we're afflicted with something that we shouldn't make dua to Allah. Of course we should. That trials, one of the benefits of trials, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us an opportunity to turn back to Him. But we shouldn't only be turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when things are difficult. We need to recognize that when things are good, we should also be turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is significant because a lot of these surahs talk about materialism and being attached to materialism and having things that are good. Surah Zukhruf addresses the prosperity doctrine, etc. And we'll talk about that when we get to Surah Zukhruf, but it's just kind of putting the human condition into perspective. And now when we talk about the other surahs where people are, as a community, getting attached to the dunya and valuing each other based on that, now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is putting it into perspective for us. I just wanted to stop at ayah number 52. Our friend Nadia ended up taking her shahada with us one day after Jama'ah, and I know some of you guys know her. And she called me specifically to tell me that was the ayah that pushed her forward. That she had been surrounded by Muslims for a long time, and she appreciated Islam, and then heard this ayah where it said, what if it is from Allah and you denied it? And it terrified her enough that she decided to take her shahada. SubhanAllah, may Allah accept it from her. And just accept from all of us that I feel like we talk about how the Quran is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then we don't give it its due. Even if we're not denying that it's the truth, we're not necessarily giving it its due that it deserves. The next ayah, and I know I say a lot of ayat are my favorite, but this one really is one of my favorites in the Quran. It's ayah number 53, and it says, we will show them our signs in the heavens and in themselves, until it becomes evident to them that this is the truth. And it's such a stunning ayah, in the same way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about ayat and signs being in the Quran. The ayat and signs are also surrounding us in the universe, and it's how can we look at that and not be humbled by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His ability and His qudra and His creation? Subhanallah. Tiny tangent, because I know we have a lot to cover. Islamic scientific philosophy was actually built on this idea of tawheed and everything being inherently interconnected because there is a single creator to the universe. And a lot of it comes back to this ayah, and that's the reason it's one of my favorite ayat in the Quran. Surah Ash-Shura, the concept of shura to begin with is this idea of consultation, and it's a really important concept for us to be applying in our lives. I just wanted to point out that this is actually still a Meccan surah. And it's part of developing the culture and the traditions of the believers, even if they didn't necessarily have control over a nation. It is a cultural shift. It's a personal change that we take on as a community, regardless of our power in terms of whether we are empowered as a community or not. We still have to be doing shura with each other. And if we institute this in our families, in our homes, and it becomes part of our norm and our standard, then we will be able to do that outside of our homes collectively as a community. Subhanallah. So the Surah Ash-Shura also has a number of ayat that are really, really stunning. Ayah number 11 is really important in terms of a lot of our aqidah discussions, and the Meccan surahs generally talked about who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. And in ayah number 11, there's this very famous statement where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. There is nothing that is like Him. And this is the foundation of the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that whatever we can think of, whatever we can even imagine, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is different from that, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is beyond that. And it's written in the context of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that created the universe from nothing. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us in pairs, because part of us being in pairs means that we are inherently imperfect, because we are inherently in need of someone else. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone is the only one that is not in need of anyone else. It talks about the sharia of that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent to previous prophets in ayah number 13. But it's saying that the central part of the sharia of all of the prophets was to establish the prayer and to not be divided as a community. And again, we kind of talked about the other day how it's quite literally haram to despair in the hope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To lose faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being able to forgive us is haram. This command in this surah is also telling us that it is haram for us to be divided. And if we actually internalize that and take it seriously, we would behave fundamentally differently, subhanallah. So that was the ayah that is saying it's important for us to stay together. And the ayah number right after tells us the ramifications if we don't. It says, وَإِنَّ الَّذِينَ أُورِثُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ بَعْدِهِمْ لَفِي شَكٍّ مِّنْهُ مُرِيبٍ. Those who inherit the book after them have intense amounts of doubt. If you are trying to inherit Islam from a generation that didn't live out Islam, and instead fought over the color of the carpet in the masjid or whatever stupid things we were fighting over, instead of actually taking it seriously, the next generation will look at us and be like, what a joke. Is Islam really real? That it's not just that we are, and a lot of the times these surahs talk about parents and children. And this is why it's important to make sure that we are maintaining Islam one generation after another by creating the sense of community and truly living it out in the way that we have to, but also investing in scholarship to make sure that the next generation gets Islam completely intact. Subhanallah. Ayah number 15 has 10 distinct statements, and there is no ayah in the Quran that is similar to it besides Ayatul Kursi. And Ayatul Kursi has subhanallah, is miraculous in different ways where it mirrors each other from the beginning till the end. But this one has distinct 10 statements of فَلِذَلِكَ فَدْعُ فَلِذَلِكَ فَدْعُ, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling the Prophet ﷺ, so call to this, وَاسْتَقِمْ كَمَا أُمِرْتَ, and be upright the way that you were commanded. وَلَا تَتَّبِعْ أَهْوَاءَهُم, and do not follow their desires. And it goes in this manner where there's 10 distinct statements in this ayah. SubhanAllah, inshallah we can reflect on it more afterwards. The one of the main themes in these surahs, in the surahs of Hamim, because this is again a point where the Muslims are disempowered in Mecca, from not obviously from a spiritual sense, but from a material sense, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in ayah number 20 says, whoever wants the akhirah, nazid lahu fi harthih, that whoever is investing in the akhirah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will increase their investment. And whoever wants this dunya, نؤتيه منها وما له في الآخرة من نصيب. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you something in the dunya. Might not be what you want, but essentially you sold out the akhirah and you get nothing in return because you didn't invest anything in it. May Allah protect us from being people that don't invest in the akhirah. And inshallah our entire lives are investment in the akhirah. Ayat number 37 through 38, this is the point where the word shura is actually mentioned. And it's talking about the believers, and it's saying those who stay away from major sins, when they get angry, they forgive. The ayah that talks about shura is ayah number 38, and it says those who answered the call of their Lord, establish the prayer, have shura and consultation in their affairs, وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ, and from what we have given them they spend. And normally, consistently in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, الَّذِينَ أَقَامُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ, those who establish the prayer and give zakat, those who establish prayer and give zakat. And the two are usually married to each other, those two statements. Here in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says those who establish the prayer have shura, puts it right in the middle, and then says those who give from what we have provided for them. And it's really stunning to me that we put the word shura in the middle of the most foundational things that make us believers, because this is the foundation of how we build a community that establishes prayer and actually gives zakah. Who is the most deserving of zakah? Who can be an expert in this? How can we decide what times we're going to pray in the masjid so that the more people can come? How do we set up our systems so that we are actually benefiting the most amount of people, that we are reaching as many people as we humanly possibly can? This has to be a discussion, and we have to be able to do it collectively, subhanAllah. I just thought it was really beautiful. Ayah number 49 and 50, the disbelievers kept talking about how one of the other materials of the dunya, it wasn't just money, it was also anyone that had children was somehow inherently viewed as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it was a point of pride for them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying this is beyond your control. Not only do you not control the money that you have, this is predetermined from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you also don't control your children. And the word hiba is a gift that you get for something, you get with no return, where you don't have to give anything in return. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He grants hiba for whoever He wills females, whoever He wills males, or He gives them both male and female. وَيَجْعَلُ مَا يَشَاءُ عَقِيمًا, and then He decides to make barren whoever He wills. إِنَّهُ عَلِيمٌ قَدِيرٌ. That this is within the knowledge and the capability of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we don't get to challenge that. SubhanAllah, this is purely within the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The end of the surah ends with ayah number 52, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we have revealed to you ruhan min amrina, a spirit from our decree. And the word ruh means, it means spirit, but it also means life. And in the same way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends down rain to be the source of material life on the earth, for things to grow, for crops, for agriculture, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also sends revelation from the heavens to be the spirit of our spiritual lives and the center of our spiritual lives. And this should be our relationship with the Quran, subhanAllah. Surah Al-Zukhruf is the one that actually directly head-on addresses this idea of prosperity doctrine, of people that said, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves me, therefore I have money and I have children and I have this. Whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is putting this into perspective and telling us that's not the point of the dunya to begin with. That's not the point of the test. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first in ayah number 5 tells us that part of the reason these people have this ideology is because they are people of excess, and now they are trying to fit a warped theology into their desires instead of submitting themselves to the theology of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And because they're a people of excess, this is what they've come up with. And in ayah 10, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that no, in fact, we put the earth for you as a place for you to grow, so that you were born into it, you follow your path in it, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَهْتَدُونَ, so that you may be guided. And essentially telling us the point of our lives on this earth is so that we can be guided to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just as a fun thing, ayah number 13, that is the dua that we say when you get in the car, or when you get on horseback, or whatever it is, that anytime you're riding something, that this is the dua that we make. Subhanallah, sakhkhara lana hadha wa ma kunna lahu muqrinin. Glory be to the one that has provided this for us and made it subservient to us, and we could not come up with anything that was anywhere comparable to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has come up with. Subhanallah. Ayat number 16 through 19, it actually gives the example how the people before of the Prophet ﷺ were so anti-women, they were anti-feminine. Like when one of them is given a daughter, they hide their face because of how ashamed they are. And yet at the same time, they said that the angels are the daughters of Allah, and they decided that they are feminine based on just whatever they made up, based on literally nothing. But it's so fascinating to me, subhanAllah, that one of the things in the surah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is holding against them, and this is one of the ramifications of extreme materialism, when we become obsessed with our physical bodies, it is inherently destructive to women. SubhanAllah, may Allah protect us from that. And misogyny is part and parcel of Jahiliyyah. And it's something that Islam was sent to change. That who we are as human beings, male and female, is just the value of us in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as worshippers, as believers, not based on our bodies, not based on anything, our wealth, not based on anything else. Ayah number 33, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had willed, He could have made the ceilings of all of their homes silver. And He could have given them all of these riches. But the ironic thing about that is if all of our houses were made of silver, then silver would be cheap and silver would not be the value that we give it. And essentially, this is the inherent problem of the dunya. Who decided that silver is inherently more valuable than something that can keep you warm and something that can give you a roof over your head? Allahu alam, subhanallah. And it's part of a series, that ayah is part of a series of 3 ayat, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, like, we could have made the ceilings of their homes silver, we could have made the doors look like this, we could have given them beds, we could have done this. And ayah number 35, this is where the surah gets its name, where it says, wa zukhrufa. So zakhrafa is more than just something being beautiful, like for like a wedding dress or an evening dress, where you have this embroidery that is intricate, that like we're gonna put in so much time, energy, and effort to beautify this thing. And this is why you usually would only do it for like a wedding dress, or for something that is extremely valuable. That is saying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that embroidery and everything that we mentioned before, that is all just the pleasures of this dunya. وَالْآخِرَةُ عِنْدَ رَبِّكَ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, and the next life is exclusively for those who are aware and conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah make us among the muttaqeen. Subhanallah. The command that goes to the Prophet ﷺ in everything that is happening, فَاسْتَمْسِكْ بِالَّذِي أُوحِيَ إِلَيْكَ إِنَّكَ عَلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. Ayah number 43 says, hold on to what we have given you, to what has been revealed to you, that you are on the straight path, you are on the correct path. And masaka is to hold. Istamsaka is to hold on to something and do it again and again and again and again. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him in the last surah, وَاسْتَقِمْ, be upright, it means that again and again and again we stand up. And we stand up to our egos, we stand up to be present in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we stand up in our prayers, we stand up to our egos, etc. And here it's saying, hold on again and again and again to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed to the Prophet ﷺ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling him, it mentions the story of Musa alayhi salam, and it's saying like, look, the Quran is your miracle. Musa alayhi salam literally had a staff that turned into a snake and ate their magic. It wasn't because the miracle that you brought to them was insufficient. It is because they refusing to believe. And here we have the story where Pharaoh, he stands up and he tells his people, أَلَيْسَ لِي مُلْكُ مِصْرٍ, do I not have all of the kingdom of Egypt? And do you not see these rivers flowing from underneath me? Do you not see my wealth, my power? Ayah number 54, it says, فَاسْتَخَفَّ قَوْمَهُ فَأَطَاعُوهُ. He belittled their intellect, and they followed him. It is, subhanallah, it's describing politicians that treat people like they are idiots. And people follow them willingly anyway. May Allah protect us from it. Subhanallah, there's so many descriptions in the Quran that you actually see them in real life, and it's just, subhanallah, it's really, really scary to see that. Subhanallah. Ayah number 68, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, actually not 68. I'm not sure which number this is. It says الأخلاء بعضهم يومئذ لبعض عدو إلا المتقين. Those who are those close, oh sorry, it is 68. Those who are really close friends, on that day they are enemies to each other, because if your friends and your company and your best friend is not helping you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, come the day of judgment, you're really angry at them. And again, the exception is those who are conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah give us all good company. There are a number of ayat describing the muttaqeen, and if you notice, a lot of the descriptions in these surahs of heaven and hell are specifically talking about groups of people, as we talked about in Surah Zumar, how people enter Jannah and enter the fire, may Allah protect us from it, in groups, and you see how these surahs talk about heaven and hell in terms of groups of people. And one of the most terrifying ayat that, in my opinion, in the Quran about the descriptions of hell is ayah number 77. Says, وَنَادَوْا يَا مَالِكُ لِيَقْضِ عَلَيْنَا رَبُّكَ. And they said, oh Malik. Malik is the name of the angel that is the guardian of hell. May Allah protect us from it. And they call out to this angel by name. And they say, ask your Lord to kill us off so we don't have to experience this torment anymore. And he responds, he says, قَالَ إِنَّكُمْ مَاكِثُونَ. No, you're going to stay in it. SubhanAllah, may Allah protect us from the fire. The end of the surah, it's in ayah number 83, فَذَرْهُمْ يَخُوضُوا يَلْعَبُوا حَتَّى يُلَاقُوا يَوْمَهُمُ الَّذِي يُوعَدُونَ. It's telling the Prophet ﷺ, just let them be. They will continue to play and delude themselves and distract themselves until they meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and at that point it's too late. May Allah protect us from that. Surah Al-Dukhan, it begins off and is talking actually about Laylatul Qadr. May Allah allow us to witness Laylatul Qadr, may He accept it from us. And besides Surah Al-Qadr, that actually talks about Laylatul Qadr, this is the other description in the Quran, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we have revealed it, meaning the Quran, in a blessed night, meaning Laylatul Qadr. Inna kunna mundhirin, that this is part of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala giving people warnings. Fiha yufraqu kullu amrin hakim. In it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals to the angels His decree, and everything that has been decreed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is revealed in that night. So besides the dua that we mentioned, Allahumma innaka afuun kareem, Allahumma innaka afuun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anni, that Ya Allah, you are forgiving, you love forgiveness, so forgive me. We need to be making as much dua as we humanly possibly can in these ayat. May Allah allow us all to reach Laylatul Qadr and to witness it and benefit from it. They said that the discussion about Surah Al-Dukhan, that there was a level of smog or like smoke above Mecca, and they really needed rain to come down to clear it out. And it was beginning to suffocate the people of Mecca, because Mecca is mountains and valleys. So if smog gets stuck in the valley, it's kind of stuck there for a while until it rains. And they asked the Prophet ﷺ to make dua, and he does make dua, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts it. The rain comes down. And then they turned away from the Prophet ﷺ afterwards. It says, ثُمَّ تَوَلَّوْا عَنْهُ وَقَالُوا مُعَلَّمٌ مَجْنُونَ. They went away from the Prophet ﷺ afterwards, and they said that he's learning it from someone else and he's crazy, which is the most stupid contradictory thing to say, that somehow he's educated by someone else, but he's also crazy at the same time. It makes no sense. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we have lifted the punishment for a little bit, but surely you'll come back. May Allah protect us. SubhanAllah. It tells the story of the people of Pharaoh. And one of the descriptions of the people of Pharaoh, it talks about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed them because they disobeyed Musa alayhi salam. And then ayah number 25 says, كَمْ تَرَكُوا مِنْ جَنَّاتٍ وَعَيُونٍ. Because we need to remember that in the same way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, hopefully, like every human being, there's a place for them in Jannah, but may Allah protect us, there's also a place for them in hell. And it's up to us to decide which one we will become dwellers of. And because the people of Pharaoh disobeyed Musa alayhi salam, they gave up their spot in Jannah. And now here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, how much did they give up in terms of gardens and gushing water? And it just, subhanAllah, there's more description of it. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in ayah number 29 says, فَمَا بَكَتْ عَلَيْهِمُ السَّمَاءُ وَالْأَرْضُ وَمَا كَانُوا مُنظَرِينَ. These people were destroyed. They said they were gods. And the sun came up the next day, nothing changed. Absolutely nothing changed. This man that claimed to be God, the sky didn't cry over him. Nobody cared. Nothing changed. SubhanAllah. May Allah protect us. Ayah number 38 and 39, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that essentially that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the heavens and the earth with a very distinct purpose. ما خلقناهما إلا بالحق ولكن أكثرهم لا يعلمون. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created them with a true purpose. Subhanallah. May Allah allow us all to be from the people of Jannah, inshallah. So the next surah, Surah Al-Jathiyah. Jathiyah means that something that is down on its knees. And here it's talking about the ayah that this surah is named after. وَتَرَى is ayah number 28. It says, وَتَرَى كُلَّ أُمَّةٍ جَاثِيَةٍ. That you see every ummah on its knees. And ummah is like a nation of people. May Allah make us all the ummah of the Prophet ﷺ. But you see every ummah down on its knees. كُلُّ أُمَّةٍ تُدْعَى إِلَى كِتَابِهَا. That every ummah is now being called to the collective book of that nation. And it's telling us that besides our responsibilities in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have collective responsibilities in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, collectively as a community. Subhanallah, which is really fascinating that we talked about shura, we talked about not valuing people based on money and based on who they actually are. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that collectively we will be all held to account together. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. There's a really scary ayah here in ayah number 34, where it's talking about the people here, in the ayah number 23, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ. This is a really famous ayah that people quote a lot. Did you see the one that took their own desires as their God? May Allah protect us from that. And this is why in ayah number 34, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that today, they come the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells them, today we forget you, the same way that you forgot this day. May Allah protect us from that, subhanallah. Surah Al-Ahqaf is the last of the surahs of the Hamim surahs. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Al-Ahqaf is like the lines that you see in sand dunes. And this was another name so Hiqf is essentially one of those. Ahqaf is a collection of those, and this was part of the description of what the people of Ad's home looked like. So ayah number 21, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses this, and it says, and mention the brother of Ad, their prophet alayhi salam, إِذْ أَنذَرَ قَوْمَهُ بِالْأَحْقَافِ, when he reminded his people in Ahqaf. وَقَدْ خَلَتِ النُّذُرُ مِنْ بَيْنِ يَدَيْهِ, and they had received multiple reminders before, subhanallah. And essentially what this surah is telling the people of Mecca, if you think you have power, you have no power compared to these people before. And you see them, they said insulting things about the Prophet ﷺ when they said, if only the Quran was revealed to a more noble man than him. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. There's no noble human being that has ever walked, anyone that walked the face of the earth that was more noble than the Prophet ﷺ. But they decided, why didn't someone with more money get in instead of him? Subhanallah, may Allah protect us. And here in the surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, what are you talking about? If even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed the people of Ad and they were more powerful than you, then why are you trying to attribute power to this? Ayah number 15, 16, and 17 actually talks about our relationships with our parents. And part of what it's talking about in terms of our relationships with our parents is giving the good example and tying this idea of power with kindness. Because our parents have a lot of power over us, but they also are an example of kindness. And that's the good example of the one that is making dua for his parents and grateful to them. And then the bad example is the person that just completely rejected his parents. The end of the surah ends with the Islam of the jinn. So there was a group of jinn, and this is mentioned in Surah Al-Jinn, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends a group of jinn to listen to the Quran, to listen to the Prophet ﷺ, and it's this really powerful statement of the people of Mecca believing or disbelieving. Even the jinn believed in the Prophet ﷺ, subhanallah. And they called each other to hear the Quran and to follow the narrations that are in it. Subhanallah, and it was a reconciliation for the Prophet ﷺ, and the surah ends, and it tells the Prophet ﷺ, so be patient. كما صبر أولو العزم من الرسل, the same way that the most powerful of the prophets were patient. Subhanallah. May Allah join us with all of the prophets in Jannah. May Allah grant us their company. May Allah allow us to get to Laylatul Qadr, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair, and my apologies if we went too long today. Assalamu alaikum. Wow, we went way too long, and I could see the numbers slowly